Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadi Tamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Suprabhatam everybody. Welcome to the June 13th class, Indic session and Indic Humanities class. Over to you, Srini Mahoday.
Okay. All right. We covered the Ishvara in Yoga Sutra and all that. And okay. So we were on to the types of chitta and how actually chitta affects the very vision of our world. So yoga tells you not just about the posture, not about how you should react to the outer world. What yoga says is what's happening in your mind, which makes you see things which are not. And here is an analogy, right? We have different types of chitta. And in Yoga Sutra, Patanjali identifies this that as Muda Chitta, Kshipta Chitta, Vikshipta Chitta, Ekagra Chitta, and Niruddha Chitta. You see in this picture, the Muda Chitta is more like wearing a dark colored sunglasses. The way you see things, it's all dark and he can't see much. And there is dullness, confusion, and no clarity whatsoever. But you do see in the next picture, Kshipta Chitta, where you see a lot of fire. And a fire is, as it indicates, it's hot. There's a lot of threat perception and very different kinds of colors. And of course, you will be super active. There's always a sense of urgency and distraction. A person in the Kshipta mode, not only he is active, but may not be physically, but mentally hyperactive, thinking too many things, wanting to do many things, always seeing threat. Threat perception is so high. They're always in some kind of a protective mode. When you're in the Vikshipta chitta or Vikshipta state of the chitta, so there is clarity, but there is no clarity. It is always oscillating. So when you have this chitta state, chitta is nothing but the mind field by which you are actually grasping the outer world, right? So you see that there is an alternating clarity and also confusion. Clarity, confusion, clarity, confusion. So this kind of an oscillation of what is right, what is not right, and whether I need to be doing that or doing that or doing this. So there is some kind of an oscillation, and even though it is an elevated or a better cleansed chitta state, he is still bonded, right? He's still suffering from that bondage. And look at the ekagra chitta, and this is a much better state of the chitta to be in. And here the person sees what matters and is clear and also dharmic. So it is a lot more functional as well as dharmic in this chitta state. There comes the final, the niruddha oriented or the niruddha restrained chitta state. I mean, this is the final state where you see things as they are because there's no glass here and it's removed. It's transparent and it's free. So it's the same world when you wear the chitta lens, when you have the chitta lens, it looks different. The same person, one person may see, oh, it's all confusion and avoidance. Another person sees, oh my God, there are lots and lots of threats and opportunities and threats. And this another person, oh, okay. I do see opportunity and I'm here executing something. Well, I'm doubtful whether I should do this or not. So this self-doubt is because of this vikshipta chitta. So every chitta state leads to a different perception of yourself and others. And here, as you can see, yoga does not change the world outside. It simply cleans the lens of chitta. So, in summary, the lower chitta types they project more and so interpret the world in their way, whereas the higher chitta types perceive more clearly. And in this matrix, you do see how each chitta type actually it's an example of how they see the other chitta types. The lower chitta, for example, a Muda chitta, it's a clouded and covered state. What I'm trying to say is it does not reflect personality, but simply the states of the mind field of the same person. So some may have the Muda chitta longer than others, whereas another person can have Ekagra chitta, which is predominantly better, or the state of Ekagra chitta actually makes the person see things clearly are much better than the other chitta types, but the state of the chitta may not be long enough. So that needs to be extended, and that is where yoga helps. If, for example, Muda chitta, when he sees, you look at the another Muda chitta. For that person, that state is normal. There's no problem. Whereas the same person looking at the Niruddha oriented person, you would see them as inactive, strange, or just useless. So each lower or the less refined chitta sees the higher state through its own limitation, right? For example, a kshipta chitta, and it's a stormy minefield, and that person sees the mudha chitta as a lazy person because he's so active mentally or physically. If you're not physically or mentally active, he's going to see this person as a lazy person, right? And another of the same type, they probably gel better because another person is also exciting and competitive. If you like going to movies and then to mall and then to uh, another place, and you're driving on the street and you're driving on the road, uh, going long distances, and you need people constantly partying and dancing and so on and so forth, who do you think you would like? You want similar kind of people who vibe with you. So that is what they say. Okay, he or she is vibing with me. So you look at that thing. There is a match of energy levels, and that is why you do see certain people. Doesn't matter which nationality or which personality, which gender, and so on. They tend to flock together. And here you see the Vikshipta. For the same Vikshipta energy person sees the Vikshipta as not steady, not intense enough. Whereas the Niruddha Chitta person looks like cold and detached. Every what they should be seeing and what he is, they're not seeing that way. It is not yathartha jnana. It is who they are not, because they see it through the lens of their own chitta. And Vikshipta, of course, they do see the Muda chitta needing motivation, and also the Niruddha chitta as, oh, it's beautiful, but totally unrealistic. This is not possible. This doesn't even work. Similarly, the Ekagra chitta, they do know they have the right tools and the right concepts. They can name the emotions, name the energy levels. They would see the Muda chitta, it's covered by tamas. And looking at the Ekagra chitta, this is stable and clear. Now, easier to work with such people and elevate them. Another of the Ekagrachita, what happens when they meet? Are deeply free, and it's worth learning from this person. So there is a deeper level of bondage. For a Niruddha oriented person, I'm saying oriented, not Niruddha itself, because it's a complete state. Niruddha oriented person, Ekagrachita, who's elevated and is on this path, they do see the Muda as tamas, but they want to help them, needs light and compassion. See, there is a certain level of compassion which was actually not present in the other chitta modes. So that compassion and the Kshipta person actually needs calming and grounding. I like the energy, but I would like to help so that it can be calmed and grounded. And Vikshipta person, all that person has the level of wisdom. Actually, if it is grounded and properly practiced, they can be elevating to other higher chitta modes, and that can be seen as well. Of course, the Ekagra Chitta is a good foundation, and a person of the same type, silence recognizes silence. Silence is not just a verbal silence, but the way they understand each other with really no words or as few words as possible. That is in this state. Probably the best state for the world to be in. This is ideal, right? And this is normal. It is normal in some countries, the Muda Chitta type. And Kshipta Chitta is very high in a few more countries, and we do see all of that. As you can see, so why that misreading is happening is because tamas, when tamas affects and tamas is more, it dulls the perception. When rajas is more, it agitates the perception. When mixed sattva, when if it is mixed sattva, it admires the higher state, but still see it is difficult or unrealistic. So not only they do see it, but they misinterpret more than they interpret properly. And the lower the state of the chitta, you will not only misinterpret, but you actually come up with your own reasoning as to why it is a defect. If you are a mudha chitta, you would see the other and the higher level chittas as a defect. Same thing with kshipta or vikshipta. All of these people, they misunderstand the world, mislabel the people as well. So therefore, an adhikari, a qualified person, is very much a need if you have to really get the right judgment, right opinion. I mean, it's not even an opinion, but the right judgment or the right set of the conclusion about another person. So if you are unqualified, you're not fit to qualify a person of higher chitta state. So therefore, so do we observe the outer world or the inner world? Because no matter we do see the outer world, but how are we reacting? We are not reacting to the outer world. We are not reacting to the fact. We are reacting to our own chitta, our own vrittis in the chitta. So the outer silence may arise from tamas, because tamas also, it's clouded and covered and all that. The outer silence, just because a person is quiet and silent, doesn't mean he's automatically wise. The outer silence may arise from tamas or from niruddha state as well. But the inner cause matters. So the cleansing of the chitta, it betters your perception, and ultimately that person becomes more compassionate and accurate. So with yathartha jnana. So at this point, any question? I don't want to be the same person talking all along. Go ahead. Anything interesting? Anything striking?
when we say oriented, a chitta oriented person, like
Yeah.
what percentage of your time do you need to be in one of these states to say you're oriented towards? Is it like 50% if you're in Vikshipta and this thing? How would
Yeah,
you?
I think it's oriented. Definitely, an ekagra chitta is highly focused, and the identity. So when we come to the identity formation and how identity detachment happens from the fruits of actions, then you know that which state of chitta you are in and how long you can hold it. See, is not a personality but a state. That is important, right?
Mhm.
And ekagra chitta, they're very close and things are working for them. And if you can sit in these kind of classes and then concentrate for hours, yes, you know, you're capable of being in this state.
The reason why I ask is that think about a situation when you are there's a very high stress job.
Mm,
Now you're just say you're a soldier in an army. You are going into battle. You are in that ekagra chitta,
mm,
right? You're very focused. You're not really thinking about anything. But then once something happens, you'll immediately jump to
yes. Yeah.
chitta, right? You might now there's chaos everywhere. You're trying to
Mhm.
absorb all the information. So
Yeah.
it,
Yes.
so then you're not there's no dominant this thing, right? Like it's very situational that you move
Yeah.
from
Correct.
one to the other.
An ekagra chitta state can have the kshipta level of energy while executing as a soldier. It is quite possible. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But why do we say that they are in this state and not this when they're still working at a very high level of kshipta energy? Right. That let's try to answer that one. Even before you answer some of those questions, we need to see, you know, before you look outward, we said, you are actually not reacting to the outer world at all. Because every chitta's type, when you're in a certain state, you see the world in a different way, and you're actually reacting to the inner state of your mind, not to the outer event at all. What you're reacting to, what you thought about the event and not the event itself. That is key. Look at this one, right? On the left hand side, there is sun, and that is what we call purusha, right? In psychological terms, purusha is just like the sun. It's pure consciousness. It is self-luminous, seer. It's pure awareness. Yoga is not about, oh, you are a person who has awareness in you. No. You are the awareness in which your body and mind appears. So that is the viewpoint of yoga, right? Here, Purusha, Purishete iti, one who is indwelling in the Puri of Sharira, right? Okay, you can take that meaning. Purusha, right? Not as man. Purishete iti, Purusha. So this is pure consciousness. And like the sun, let's say it falls on a lake. So if the lake is analogized to chitta or the mind field in which buddhi also exists. At first, buddhi is dusty. So you're trying to see your own reflection. You bend down and see, oh, if the lake's using the lake, can you see your own reflection? No, you cannot because it's all dusty and the buddhi. Buddhi is the reflection. And it is clouded. It is clouded how? It is clouded by the kleshas. It is colored. Klesha is like this contamination, right? It is clouded by the kleshas, samskaras, agitation. Therefore, the consciousness and the reflection of the consciousness that you want to see is not seen. It's poorly reflected. Now, why? Because the larger mind field, it has received those impressions from generations or from many, many decades and stores those experiences. Right? The modifications of the vrittis, which are thoughts, perceptions, and emotions, they all rise and subside like waves. And when that is happening, when that is constantly happening, there's no way you can perceive the Purusha or even the, let's say, the sun out there. You can't see the reflection. Your own face, you can't see the reflection because it's all muddy and unclear. So Buddhi, the reflector, is muddy, it's dusty. When you balance the vrittis and cleanse the kleshas, that is when it gets purified, the reflection is purified, and consciousness or the sun of consciousness is seen. So that is called viveka. The clean buddhi is viveka, the purified the clarity of buddhi. So that is when you can distinguish the seer from the seen. So what is chitta? What's happening here? You see, if you think of yoga as a system science, the consciousness is reflecting through the buddhi, right? The first thing is it gets into the indriyas, and the indriyas are interpreting in their own way, perceiving in their own ways, the fragmented reality, the sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. They're all combined, and they are integrated, received, and the manas is the one that is also coordinating it. And at this point, there is the centrality of all thoughts called the ego or the ahankara. Aham meaning I, karayati, maker, I maker, or identity formation, thought of identity formation. And that's a very strange thought. It appropriates any experience as I or mine. Interestingly, so you see, the pure light of Purusha is simply appearing, and it is reflected in the buddhi, and manas received it, manas and the chitta received it, and ahankara is simply making I, me, or mine. Now, the role is, it doesn't say I have a role, it says I am the role. Okay? And it doesn't say I am, I have shortness or I have tallness in the body. It says I am tall, I am short. So Viveka is the one that reveals, whatever is seen is what I possess. It is not me. That is the Viveka. It is simple, but it never triggers, right? So it is called asmita. So asmita is the confusion of the seer with the instrument of seeing. Druk darshana shaktyoho ekatmata eva asmita. Ekatmata eva asmita. So that making the druk darshana and the seer and the seen, seeing and the seer as one. So that is called asmita. Asmi means exists. And who exists? I exist is asmi. That is the label, that is the attachment. So consciousness is not produced by the mind. So, and chitta is simply the larger mind field in which all these vrittis are arising. So ahankara is the one that personalizes this passing experience. And yoga is all about purifying that buddhi, and so that the viveka can ask, who is seeing this? Yes, please.
Gee, from the first slide I was looking at, um, the swabhava, I was trying to see where the swabhava was,
Uh-huh.
because the swabhava, it's basically embedded, or maybe it's somewhere existing somewhere where all these things are changing
Mhm.
around you, and then you're moving away from your purusha, like the real being, and then somewhere there's swabhava, right? So
Yeah.
the deviation from your swabhava is where your kleshas are happening. It's from a practical, like psychological sense, right?
Swabhava, yeah, I mean, Swabhava is made up of the three gunas, right?
Right.
Inside the Bhagavad Gita. I mean, the Yoga Darshana is slightly, it is approaching the subject, the same subject in a different way. As in Yoga Darshana, we are not defining Swabhava at this point. We are
Okay.
simply saying, this is the mind field, this is what happens, this is what happens, this is what happens.
Just the process.
Just the process.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. One other thing that you were explaining, the Asmita part.
Hmm.
I found somebody named their kid Asmita, so I was wondering how that came about. Now your breakdown kind of
Yeah.
like
Asmi iti bhavaha. I know Asmi, I exist is a thought.
okay.
And that bhava, that emotion is called asmita.
Okay.
Yeah. And asmita is the lowest state of ahankara. And you can see that here. And this is the purification of identity or asmita in Yoga Darshana. See, in Yoga Darshana, it's all about taking you from I am the role identification to I act, but I am not bound to that state. And you see that the problem is false identification. It could be at the body level, title, I am an engineer. Is that really true? You play the role of an engineer, but I am engineer. I am my status. And the status, everything becomes me, me. There's no differentiation between the role, the body, title, and me. It keeps happening, right? That is avidya, but nobody seems to bother about it because it's part of the language. And viveka is separating the seer from the seen at this level itself. The role is seen, therefore, it's not the self. If I can observe, this is the observed, and I am the observer. This is experienced, and therefore, I am the experiencer. And role becomes visible and not absolute. And once you start purifying this, as there is maturity in every human being, there is kartavya bhava. This is also another state of identity formation. For example, I must perform the role. So the duty may become pressure, and it can become anxiety or control. And I must perform is kartavya. It must be done, it's imperative. And the attachment is to the result at that point. And here, Yoga Sutra says, Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam Tannirodha. The steady action without clinging to the result is the solution for this Kartavya Bhava. Here, duty becomes more disciplined and not stressful. And once you elevate further, it becomes the Dharma Bhava, and I serve through the role. So this is the Seva Bhava or the Dharma Bhava. And here too, the problem is that the Dharma can create the subtle pride that I am right, yes, the others are not. It can happen. The sattvic ego can actually turn into a stronger attachment ego too. So there is a downside too. So therefore, the Yoga Sutra is all about Swadhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhana. examine the motive and offer the ownership. Swasya adhyayanam, self-study. Here, in the refined form, dharma becomes service, not superiority. And when that ego is also purified, and when that identity is also purified, that is when I act, but I am not bound. State happens, and that state is reached, and there might be a subtle danger of even detachment may become pride. No, I'm a sannyasi, I'm a sannyasi, I'm a sannyasi, I've left everything. You keep saying that thing. And if there is a need to keep reminding yourself and others, of course, there is that subtle danger, a subtle ego. So Yoga Sutra is all about pushing you to that Sakshi Bhava, or the Karuna, with Karuna, and remaining as a witness, humble and compassionate. The refined form is when that action becomes totally free, clear, and non-egoic. So it is, the whole journey is from Asmita Bhava to Nirahankara, Sakshi Bhava. Therefore, the person doesn't get trapped in the role or in emotions. Basically, he can act, he can do the same thing, he can have the same level of energy and still execute an action with and being free from the result or the claims of I and myself and mine. So here, so if you consider the chitta types from Asmita to Nirahankara and how the whole journey happens, chitta becomes clearer, so the identity also starts weakening. This identification with who you're not, that starts weakening. And it becomes more and more functional, dharmic, and finally non-binding. Now, here in the Mudha Chitta, it's covered ego. It's all confused identity. And then you go to Kshipta, and you can see anyone who is defensive and reactive, you can easily map to the Chitta state. And Vikshipta state is the self-doubt of people that you come across, even among the very best. They are in the Vikshipta mode. And functional or the dharmic identity. Now, I'm executing. Of course, they also use the word I and mine and all of that. It's all fine because it's for language only. Just because somebody uses the word I, that doesn't put them into any of these categories. But still, they could be executing their duties. It's a functional identification. They understand where it is leading to. It's functional identification so that other people can understand it. It's a dharmic identity. Right? This role is entrusted to me and I must serve rightly. So this is in the Ekagra Chitta mode. And so the identity is dharmic identity. It is not completely, asmita. And though the functional identity emerges in the Vikshipta mode, it's always confused, oscillating. But this is steadier. And dharmic identity is the one that actually unbinds you, does not create a bondage as you start progressing towards the Niruddha Chitta, where that witness-based freedom or the Sakshi Bhava happens. Of course, just to remind ourselves, these are only the states of Chitta and not personality labels. And Ahankara, as you see, it is not getting upgraded or elevated. It is simply being purified. And when you are in the highest of the Chitta levels, it is not destroying the ability to function. It is simply refining the identity and relieves you of that suffering from attachment. Niruddha does not mean passivity, which many people confuse the same thing for the Mudha Chitta. No. It does not mean passivity. It means clear action without any ego bondage. As you can see, from Asmita Bhava, I am this mode, to I am not the doer mode. As you can see, the identity ladder, So it's progressing. I am this. Do I have a role? I serve dharma, and I am not the doer. All these three states have certain level of egoic identification, but at the dharma bhava, you see, I serve dharma. There, the thing drops. It's already dropping, and I am not the doer. It is a clear and absolute separation. So, as chitta becomes clearer, action becomes freedom. Okay. Any question?
Yeah, I have a question, Mahoday. So, so earlier, like for a situation, if I'm dealing with some rebel children or
Mhm.
something, a rebel child.
Mhm.
So, if the way I read was that one has uh, to improve the buddhi,
Mhm.
or to reach the right information to the buddhi, you have to use the outs the I was relying on outside in manipulation, in the sense that to reach the correct message to the buddhi, we use the bypass the manas, right? The kosha, manomay kosha, or the sensory kosha, and use that. How to bypass that is use the drama, story, katha,
Mm.
or emotional way, and use that rasa and bhava to manipulate the right information to the buddhi. But
Mhm.
does this yoga chitta vritti nirod tells this is the ultimate approach? Because this seems to be like an inside out approach, because we are ourselves cleaning the mind field
Mhm.
to not block our manas. Because at the end I'm seeing that if rebels are because man itself is blocking right information to come in.
Mhm.
So this inside out, where the owner himself is the sovereign authority to make
Yes,
a decision,
correct.
and
Correct.
I do not. Yeah.
Yes, and that is the yoga, the approach of the Yoga Sutras and the Yoga Darshana. And abhyasa vairagya bhyam tannirodha. For chitta purification, you need to go through the process. What the example that you gave is the example of the Rasa Shastra, okay, where you read a story, or read Ramayana, read Mahabharata, whatever, you're watching a great play. There, you are actually witnessing the play in the Sakshi Bhava mode. It is impersonal enjoyment. You do know what is happening on the stage, whether it is sorrow or whether it is happiness, joy. You are not personally experiencing it. You are experiencing, you are witnessing the character experiencing it. You're already in the Sahridaya, or the Sakshi mode. Therefore, chitta purification is happening when you're witnessing it. So that is the Kavya Shastra approach. So this is the Yoga Shastra approach. And Yoga Shastra is about, you need to have a purified chitta, or a slightly higher elevated chitta, in order to receive such dhani kavyas. A better art can be enjoyed only if your chitta is also at a certain level. Is that right?
Right. Right.
If
So
you are in a Mudha Chitta mode and a Kshipta Chitta mode, I don't think Kalidasa's Raghuvamsham will be appealing to such a Chitta state. So you need to purify in order to actually grasp and enjoy a higher level of kavyas.
right. So I think both of them
Mm.
work in complement.
Yeah, complementary to each other. Yes.
But yoga chitta vritti nirod uh, is I think is inherently inherently makes a sovereign. We have to sovereign. We can make a right decision
Correct.
instead of a katha to or Ramayana to tell us to make a right decision.
Ah,
Uh,
it
the
is
impression on our buddhi.
Kavya also purifies your chitta. Yoga actually, yama niyama, asana, pranayama, all those things also are purifying the chitta. They can be complementary to each other. And Yoga Shastra is simply, getting deeper and deeper and making you more disciplined to to keep that sadhana without any gap.
Agree.
Yeah.
Is it more reinforcement or just definition of the process and making it more like
So I would say they
real?
purify chitta. I mean, more,
Filter? They're all filtering.
yeah. I think it's more the prakriya is more systematic in the Yoga Sutras. And for example, if you go to Bhakti or the Vedanta darshanas, they say that Bhakti itself is enough to purify the chitta, right? So every darshana takes a different viewpoint. So
Got
yeah,
it, G. So darshana, it's a different style of darshana.
different darshana, I'd say, correct. So each and in the Sankhya mode or in the Yoga Sutra mode, they're not talking about how arts can purify your chitta. You are actually the agent. And yama niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, and all these things, they all actually, you see that when you're studying Ramayana, uh, don't you feel that it has the same energy of a mimamsaka when he implements action, when conviction is superior to conveniences? That is what we learn, right? Of course, it's from a Vedantic viewpoint, but if you want to see it as an action-oriented Maryada Purushottama, doing the right all the time and being situationally aware, you do know that it inspires outer actions too for the situation. Yes, Ruddha Singh ji.
Yeah, I think, like you said earlier, it's system science. So my understanding after studying this is that if you look very casually, it can look like it's a prescription. Oh, you must get to Niruddha Chitta, you must purify, must. But if you think about it, there's the, like, as you'll cover later, there's a bigger architecture of what is causing the Chitta to be Vikshipta right now.
Mhm.
The vasanas, I think you already touched upon it, that the vasanas, the samskaras that are acting up. So I think it's to, and he's very careful not to blame or create a moral arrow, saying he's just really saying this is what is going on. Understand that, so you understand the architecture, and then you can, once you have the right operating system,
Yeah.
then you can go. But like you said in the great epics and all, if you are in life, you are going to have karma and you're going to have to operate in that vikshipta mode.
Mhm.
And Patanjali is never saying that this is bad and this is better or go here. He's just saying that's what it is. I mean,
Yes.
if you're as per your karma, and I think it's beautiful because your existential reality, you can't scrub it. You
Mhm.
can't just evaporate from the battlefield and say I'm doing yoga. It's exactly what Arjuna was trying to do. He's trying to play smart and say I'm going to skip it. I have some. I'm going to
Yeah. I mean,
play smart.
ego, that identity formation was so strong and it was not purified. And you do see that he was in the Vikshipta stage when he was oscillating. And he enters in the Kshipta mode, and then he was in the Vikshipta state when he says that, I want to fight, but I'm all doubtful whether I'm doing something right.
Yeah, it also means that the reason is you you kind of dissolve your way out of reality by saying I'm going to do yoga. I think the very fact that you have the karma is the fact that you are in the battlefield.
Mhm.
There's an existential reality to why you're standing there to begin with. And
And
this
which
is why the Gita is
state
masterful.
was Krishna in when he was preaching Bhagavad Gita?
I can't say that because he's a complete multiverse. He's all operating at everything. He can operate at that state where,
That
uh,
actual preaching happened in the Niruddha state. It's completely
yeah, 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 Nehru state, yes, but he can see the value. You're right. He can see the
and
value of all levels.
he
Whatever
had
makes sense.
he had compassion,
Yeah.
and he was helping him and he was elevating him. All he said was, "You do what you're doing, but detach yourself from the fruits of action." So that is what's going on, right? And it this is yoga is nothing but the science of self-awareness. And as you can see in this, in Yoga Sutra, it takes you through a journey, and especially understanding each model of self-awareness. They're not actually separate models, but you do see that there is a connection from one model to another. If, for example, you see something, take an example. You got an angry mail from a boss. Now, there is an angry male, so that's a fact, right? He is angry and he is insulting me, and not only he's angry, he's insulting me, he's sabotaging my career growth. These are vrittis and kleshas. You see that klesha is represented by fire. It is coloring it. There is a wave, it's already colored. Instead of responding to the outer event called angry email, we could have been calm and then responded, what focus on the situation. The person, if he reacts to with another angry email, he's actually reacting to his own vritti. This is when things go wrong. At this very first level, things will go wrong. So the question to ask is, what is happening in the mind right now? Then again, so what is the fact? He sent an angry email because there are accusative words. The story, oh, he has insulted me, he's upset with me, and he's going to cause more harm, is the story that we are building. So we react to the story. And in that story, I am a person of such and such a status, and I should not be insulted. This identity is attached to the status in the story. So, Yoga Sutra is about separating the fact, the pramana. Pramana should be separated from viparyaya and vikalpa, that mental story, vikalpa. Separated from asmita, that is the klesha, asmita, right? Avidya and asmita. In that, the moment once you're able to separate the fact and the story, what happened outside and what happened in my chitta, the question you should be asking is, instead of what is happening outside and I should react, the question should be, what is moving in my chitta at this moment? What is the movement in my chitta? Then you identify the vritti. What is the story in my chitta? You identify the story. And now, why is this story so heavy for me? Why is it bothering me? Then you go through the klesha diagnosis model. Which root affliction? Is it avidya? Is it asmita? Is it raga dvesha? Raga dvesha may happen because of smriti, another vritti, right? That oh, in the past something like this happened and it actually bothered me. I even lost a job. That smriti is actually aiding this raga and the dvesha. I want to protect my job and I hate this person. Now, what is heavier? Which one? Asmita or avidya? Sometimes it may not be raga dvesha. It may be just avidya and asmita. and I don't want to lose my status is the abhinivesha. Clinging to the status, clinging to the role is slightly different from asmita, but comes from the same root, avidya, wrong perception, wrong seeing. Right? When you remove the avidya, you get rid of all kleshas. Now, so you have to be, you're looking at your own mind. One, what's happening in the mind? Separate the vritti and the klesha, and now separate the fact, the story, and the false identity, and identify the root klesha or which klesha is predominant, and then go for aha. If I react now, okay, it becomes an impression. If I send an angry email response, I mean, as a reaction, without doing any of these things, what will happen? There'll be more and more defensiveness on the other side. Why he was right to say so, correct? And that leads to impressions or sanskaras within you, which is dvesha. It can become more and more against the person. How action becomes impression, and today's action will turn into tomorrow's tendency. That is vasana. So we will act. Yes, Modi? Oh. And sanskara vasana habit model. So now you see, if I take an action now, it leads to karma. At this point, you need to pause. Trigger. That trigger. Oh, if I let me pause. And this pausing time is where the viveka triggers. Pause before reaction and respond through discernment. This is where you can take the action and not create these unnecessary samskaras and the vasanas. And if even you may be able to use the viveka, but it's best if you see in what mode you're responding. Are you like letting go and not taking an action? It's like, I don't want any trouble. I recognize all of it, but I don't want any trouble. Let me keep quiet. So that is tamas covering. And rajas is all about when getting disturbed. I need to respond now. It may not be now, but it may not be so urgent to respond now. It may be like tomorrow or a week after. You got to time it. So don't allow the rajas also to take over, and make sure, are you in the clarifying chitta, which is more. But this is where the best response happens. And ultimately, whatever you did is observed, is seen.
అడిచేసి బ్లాంకెట్
So there is a drashta and the
ఆ
drishya.
పిల్లకి కావాలేమో ఇక్కడ పెడతాను అడుగు
Can you please go on mute? We are hearing that thing. Okay. So the seer seen model is the one that will separate you from the actor or the result of that action. I can see which state I am in. I know which guna I am in. I am not the guna. I am not the chitta. I am not the vritti. I am not the klesha. I am not the role. And that seer seen separation happens in this sattvic state of mind. That happens in the state of, in the fourth pada, avalokana, manana, nididhyasana, and then kaivalya, freedom from that action itself. So from noticing the mind to freedom of false identity is the goal of yoga darshana. And each model we can go through that thing, taking your cases and apply your own experience. Ask yourself, what happened yesterday? You were in which vritti mode or klesha mode? Anyone wants to take an example? And your own personal stories, you don't have to make it super personal, and remain in your own state so that it can be a lesson. So instead of, oh my gosh, I said so many things about me. It's not like that. Yeah. Ajayji.
I think your example of the email is very interesting. I'll tell you. So I've progressed through my career. I've gone through that mid-level stage where you have to control few folks below you, and you have to answer to your management. So it's a frustrating position to be in because you're mid-level. and this is a shout out to AI, right? In the sense that when you write emails through AI, it's detecting your tone, it's detecting what you're saying and how professional you come across. So you just give it a pause and you allow it to think about how that thing, and then you allow it to rephrase, and then, or you can go into any of your LLMs and then say, make this more polished, professional, and don't let my tone be that anger or this thing come through. Then you're that becomes a habit. Now when I write emails, when I have to respond, I will think about it a little bit more, and that's becoming more of a habit where it's toned down to
Yes.
the entire thought process.
Yeah. And it's okay. See, for example, Yoga Sutra doesn't say you should not get irritated.
Yeah.
It doesn't say that.
Yeah.
It says that yes, you do get irritated, and observe that the thought of irritation and the emotion of irritation rises and then comes down. It arises and then it comes down.
Yeah.
So just observe it.
And that's what I meant, in the sense that this use of technology is helping at least me that to make that observation, because that detects that
I
tone and stuff.
don't think a lot of people can actually even have the wisdom to use technology or think about what to write and all that. They just go right there,
Mm.
right? I
Mm.
mean, highly reactive state. I don't think a kshipta state would allow a person, unless there are large stakes, will allow a person to even wait. Yes, or the same.
Yeah, 100%. I was listening to a podcast yesterday. Is that who is going to tell the AI to even question this to begin with? If
Hmm.
you're already in a Vikshipta state and Rajasic state, you will say, AI, help me write an email that will teach that guy a lesson. And
You
but make it so it doesn't appear rude. It's your motivation will not be there.
question don't the question, if you say don't make it appear rude, but just teach a lesson to that person, that will be
Yeah.
into the AI. Okay, make him realize that there is
Mm.
it's not about how we should work collaboratively and amicably, even though he has insulted me. I
Yeah.
don't that kind of, it depends on the chitta state to ask the right question, right? And of course, even the LLM should be trained in that model. Otherwise, it will give you whatever generally that is accepted, which may not be working. That mudita, upeksha, santosha, and all those qualities are gone. And it's not part of the LLM. And of course, at the end of the day, you can't outsource self-control to AI.
Yes, I think there is a interesting, it's a little sidebar here. They have this concept called cognitive flexibility.
Mhm.
And what I was listening to is that you can actually have, if you have the wisdom to ask, you can ask the AI that say, help me see this situation in a different perspective.
Yeah.
And what are the other alternatives to resolving the situation
Yes.
that is presented, say, by my manager or a peer. He's saying there's a problem, but maybe we can refacet the entire situation and look at how it can be even approached,
Mhm.
right? So you're basically reframing it back. But I
Everybody
think
question that you're interacting, and every question, the quality of your questions actually reflect your own chitta state.
exactly, exactly. I think to Ajayji's point, I think the thing yesterday I was listening was that's fantastic. So I actually researched cognitive flexibility. I know it's a Western concept, but it's allowing to I think I see it as a detachment that we talk about as cognitive flexibility would be a way where my identity is fused because my language already I've already it's presumed when I'm operating that I have how I'm operating. It allows me to sort of decouple myself and say, can you give me some other ways to operate?
Yeah. I mean, you can actually, if you have that kind of cognitive flexibility, and if you're detached, you do know how a kshipta mind operates, how a vikshipta mind operates in a certain situation. You can read the room by a few simple
Mhm.
words they say, a few actions, and some gestures. and the body language and how it conveys. You start knowing all of that thing because you have an ekagrachitta.
Yeah, my understanding, and it's probably, I think, my opinion is, if you operate on the yogic model, it it absolves in a way. You get an understanding where you can say, ah, I see this person. The reason he's so reactive is because of his composition. It's not him. It's the composition of his
Yeah,
chitta and sanskaras and his mentality and his fear or survival. And I've seen that with people, directors, sending these emails, do this, do that, because there was all of this threat that they had to, they're going to get laid off if you're upper middle management, then you're on the axe. Um, but what it did was it created I almost felt like our culture, modern society, is driven where this whole idea of accountability,
mm,
and this accountability is a fusion of asmita and amkara. That means somebody has to be accountable for this action. So
mm.
it's you. I don't care what you are or what is your composition. Do it.
Yeah,
So
it is
if
a
everybody is operating in that way, how is this model going to work? Because even if you are clear, um, I think you could probably, Sriniji, dwell on that. In Gita, I think probably covers that. Is how is that accountability going to be established in such a model? Because this will just attribute, you can just be perfectly, uh, you know, calm. You
Mhm.
know why all of this is happening.
Yes.
How will it work on accountability then? How would you factor in
See,
that sort of
at the
accountability?
level of, for example, in the kartavya bhava, the person knows that he is responsible, right? The kartavya bhava, when the identification
Mhm.
is kartavya bhava, which is actually a lower state of uh, ahankara. It is better than asmita. It is better than asmita. And kartavya, asmita bhava is like, I am that. Now, I am manager. There's no life beyond this thing. I am the manager. Okay, asmita. I have the role of a manager and I must do it. You know, I want this result exactly the way I expected. So this is the kartavya bhava. And kartavya bhava is also slightly better than asmita, but it actually binds you to that action itself. And most people suffer because of kartavya bhava also. The dharma bhava is the higher elevation where I recognize that this is my role and these set of actions I have to execute because it is a right to do so. It's not just functional identification for the role or the responsibility, but it's also a right to do it. So that is dharma bhava. And accountability, we can let go of it. That accountability can be that intense feeling of accountability may exist in kshipta, but it is making him suffer. Whereas in the dharma or in the elevated dharma bhava, then you're actually detached because you are doing it because it is right to do so. It is in your nature. When I say it's dharma, it is aligned with ruta and satya, right? So that is the moment you align with the ruta and the satya, the suffering that was happening, asmita is not ruta and satya. I am the role, I am the responsibility, or I am the manager, I am the boss, I am an employee, I am superior or I am inferior. They're all asmita, which is making you suffer more, and that is neither rhythm nor satyam. Therefore, it is not even dharma. Am I making myself clear?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the whole economy and right now what the crisis is happening is because the society that has rooted everyone's identity as labor units,
Labor unit.
and so there's this societal panic with AI because now, like, oh, what is going to become of me? That's because your whole identity is I am this knowledge worker, and
Ah,
now the whole, because I don't exist anything outside being a knowledge worker,
Yes.
and it's a survival economy because market forces. So may the best thing win. If it's AI now, then AI wins. Whatever. I mean, I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's the psyche and people, the thought process that people are having, that, oh my God.
Yeah, the whole life is, ishta prapti, anishta nasha. Getting what you want, getting rid of what you don't want. So why is that happening? Because it is identity management. All life is identity management. To protect your role or your status. Or
That's well said.
yeah. Just identity management. Yes, Maurya. Ajayji.
Um, Rudra Senji, to your point, if I don't think this is uniquely Western or this thing. I mean, if you think about it, even Arjuna's the entire point of the Bhagavad Gita was that Arjuna was reminded of his kartavya as a Kshatriya, right? That was his identity, wasn't it? It's not that it's because he's a Kshatriya, that identity was fused to his character, to him, right? He had to act on that because of his role as a Kshatriya.
Mhm.
Was it not?
Yes, his role was Kshatriya. Not only that, and everybody's role was Kshatriya. But Kshatriya's role is to protect Dharma. And he was asked to uphold Dharma, not being attached to, even Dhritarashtra is saying, Mama Kaha Pandava, where are my people and then the Pandavas? Are they fighting? Sanjaya, tell me what's happening. And then Arjuna comes and then says, oh, my grandfather, my gurus, my cousins are going to die. My brothers will die. My sons will die. So everything is about my. And he says that if I do that, actually, Varna Sankara may happen. Actually, more people will suffer. Why the hell do I need to do all of these things? And look at me, what's happening? And I have this anxiety now, and I'm sweating. And even the Gandiva is slipping off of my hands. So he's exhibiting all the Kshipta tendencies and being nervous about it, having anxiety about it. And there is a sense of kartavya, and he's all confused. It's going on, and he was trying to take on the status of a compassionate person, and then giving up the duty in the battlefield, saying that this is all bad. I'm not going to do it anyways. Let him take and enjoy. Let Duryodhana take his kingdom and enjoy. Yes, Ji.
Yeah, I think, Jaji, yeah, thank you for that. That you just explained my answer. Is that Arjuna finds convenience in abandoning his identity as a Kshatriya, saying, "Oh, this is too tough now. I think it's time to throw away the Kshatriya identity and the Dharma, and let me avoid immoral action or what I think is immoral, and just run away." Right. So I think this is a slightly more nuance where Arjuna is pretty educated and smart. He's not wise because he's not seeing how to apply it, right? Where Krishna helps him. But I think Ajayji, the point is here Arjuna can see his life outside. He'll say, I'll live in a hut or whatever. I'll just run away. I'll just abandon the identity only. Uh, right. But then, which is masterful, because this is what you could make all of spirituality into, an escapism. Uh, and it's not escapism, and it's also not saying, oh, you should not have an identity, so just scrub everything. This is not about erasing everything or getting rid of things. Also, I think that is to be noted. That's what I take away from it.
Anyone has a comment or anything to add, please feel free.
Gee, preserving identity is an issue now.
Yes.
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 I think
I'm
Ajayji,
just laughing at myself because I've been trying to, build a community identity and sort of preserve it, not just for me, but for the clan, or the tribe, or whichever way I'm in, because I feel like it means something. An attachment, obviously. That attachment is because It's just the way we've been brought up. So it's like, I'm just debating myself, like, am I going the right path? Just questioning myself. Is that even the right thing? Just
So
the pause you're talking about is what I'm trying to reanalyze myself and thought process.
if I may add, DCG, so it's very careful to be think of the operating assumption. Are you treating Yoga Sutras like a prescription? And are you also assuming that there is one arc that I'm here and I need to go here? This is good and this is bad, because that will create a level of duality and a morality, right? So that's a very subtle point. But if we take away from my understanding is if we take away a morality out of the sutras saying, oh, I'm Vikshipta, I am bad, and I want to get to Niruddha, which is good, you've created an arrow, but the reality is you can't pull it off because there is karma, there is the whole where you are. I mean, but I think that's one thing you want to think about it. If can we accept ourselves at Muda level? Can we accept ourselves at the Vikshipta level, or the whatever level we are at, or at Ekagra level, outside of that sort of thinking? Because that could be the underlying sort of play going on, right? You understand all of this clearly, but
Shri Pavaniji, go ahead.
So the state of chitta, it is not rigid, right? It will change with our mind. Like when Arjuna was initially in the battlefield, I don't think they came to fight the war. I mean, I'm in the context of Bhagavad Gita or Mahabharata. So when initially the first day of war, they're all assembled, he was there to fight the war. Only after his emotional state was affected by seeing all his family and friends, when he's in front of his guru and uh, his pitamaha, that's when he was affected and his chitta changed. But then he was open, his chitta was open to absorb the knowledge given by Krishna. And then it has changed after that. And so we are not, we don't have an absolute chitta, throughout our lifespan, or every day our chitta may change. We woke up on the wrong side of bed and our chitta is affected. So, I mean, I would perceive it as, and being aware of that and trying to amend ourselves, or introspect and, you know, uh, not let it affect our emotions. That is what will take us to the next level, or to the Niruddha state, right?
Yes, and you're absolutely right. We keep, that state of the chitta keeps changing, and we can be in a lower level of chitta at a certain point in time. And you wake up in the morning, you're actually in the Muda chitta. So that happens. And that is why sadhana is important. That abhyasa nairantarya, nirantara. There should not be any gap, he says. That abhyasa should be continuously practiced. And this is that's a prescription in the sadhana pada, right? He says it's practical. You should do this thing. Uh, yes, but at some point when the maturity strikes, right, your chitta level, certain better, for example, ekagra chitta level in certain contexts will be longer than the muda or the kshipta. In all contexts, how do you keep the ekagra or the niruddha? And that is what Yoga Sutra talks about. In every circumstance, yeah. It is that is when you're free.
That is basically the path to attain moksha, which is what.
Kaivalya.
Yes.
Yes, totally. And they don't call it moksha here in the yoga darshana, they call it kaivalya. Ashwinji, yes.
Namaste. So
Also, Patanjali gave a Ashtanga yoga like Yama, Niyam,
Asana, pranayama, pratyahara. Yeah, that's some,
Pratyahara. So is that also in the
Yoga
follow up
Sutra.
on the yoga Chittavritti Nirodh? That
Yes,
is like a
right.
prescription.
Yes, that's the prescription. Yes. Yeah. The see, yama is the social behavior, proper social behavior. Niyama, the personal discipline. Asana, the posture. Pranayama, the main regulation of your energy. Right. Pratyahara, learning how to control your senses. This is that can only happen if you start cleansing your chitta. Your reactionary mode should change to response mode, and your ego identification, asmita bhava, should slowly, gradually, it should evolve to dharma bhava. So that's the whole process. And look at this thing. Oh, it's already 9 o'clock. But I know we can go through all of these models and as a case study, taking examples. And we have the Chitta Vritti Klesha model. We have the fact story identity model, Klesha diagnosis. How do you do the trigger pause viveka? And guna based self awareness, seer seen. Think about the examples. We actually have had an overview of this thing, but you think of details here. So let's make the next one completely a discussion session, okay? So that way you can digest it better. Then we'll reach the Vibhuti Pada. And then Kaivalya. Okay. So, all right. You can stop the recording, and if you have any questions, please go ahead.
Okay, well, Dhanyavad everybody. And Dhanyavad Mahoday will close with the Shanti Mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Paschantu Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.